Good afternoon. This is the City of Liberty Lake Parks and Arts Commission meeting. Today is Monday, July 7, 2025. It's 4 p.m. We'll get things started by the call to order, going through the commissioners. Nancy Hill, that's me, present. I show David Heimbaugh absent. Laura Frank is en route. Katie Ferris.
Present.
John Barr is going to be absent. Noel Otterson Laparco.
Present.
Bob Schneidmiller.
Present.
Joni Hay.
Present.
Gary Edwards, is he online? No? Okay, no Gary as of now. Our student commissioner position is currently still vacant, and staff today, we have Mikkel Stevens, Derek Kaczynski, and Jen Camp. Next on our agenda is the approval of the June 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anyone have a chance to review those? And if so, do you have any questions, comments, additions? If not, we'll need a motion to approve. And for the record, please show that Laura Frank is present.
I move we approve the minutes.
We have
I'll
a
second.
Thank you, Noel. It's been moved by Katie, seconded by Noel to approve the minutes of the June 2nd, 2025 meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please show the motion has passed unanimously. Next, we have citizen comments. Come up to the podium.
Yeah.
And if you could just state your name for the record and if you are a resident of the city or not.
Yes. Yes, my name is Marla Larson, and I am a resident, and I've been a resident for almost 40 years. Yikes. I have presented to the city council before, but never the Parks and Rec. I was at a meeting the other day with Jen and Mikkel, and I just shared a project that came to be with our Light Up Liberty Lake committee, together with Liberty Lake Better Together Foundation. And we have one member that's very passionate, and she had submitted a grant to Umpqua Bank to see if we could get money for it. And I knew at some point we would need to address this with the Parks and Rec, but we don't know if we have the funds yet. And the project is, the idea is to have a rock garden and have children in our community through the school system, do art projects. So at the younger age levels, we'd have rocks painted, and or families, could do this and be placed in this community garden. And then the upper grades could be responsible for community service and taking care of this and making the clean and no naughty rocks and so forth. So anyway, I don't really have a presentation, but what I told Jen and Mikkel was that I would come share with you. And I have a couple pictures. It's a rock garden in Oceanside, and my grandsons came to visit, and they loved partaking in painting rocks and placing them in this community rock garden. And people just come from all over to look at this rock garden. It's quite special. So with no further ado, do you want me to just share these with you, Nancy?
Yeah, that would be great. How big is the rock garden?
It's around 7 trees. It kind of depends, and I don't know where we would place it if we did it, but and these are, this gives you more idea, I guess.
Oh, wow.
And then up closer.
Oh, that's like cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, why don't you want to,
Sure, take it around.
yeah, take it around.
So, but I just thought, it could be something fun that park, and kids would really, I think, get a kick out of this.
But certainly a pretty simple, easy project if we have a good place to put it.
Exactly.
Did you want to mention to?
Wow.
We do the
That's really.
painting or
Would this be like a class they would take like at the beginning of the summer or something?
Yeah, just so you.
That part we'd have to work out, but I do think it could be something where an art docent person at the school could help. And again, I don't know if we have the funds, from Umpqua, what it would require, but she put quite an extensive packet together that she submitted to Umpqua. Fingers crossed we get it. And then from there, I just don't know, but
It's interesting you bringing that up because at our Barefoot in the Park event on August 2nd, is it? In the Pavilion Park, it's the community kind of summer event. And Parks and Arts is having a booth and we usually get feedback on a project like our pavilion playground replacement project is what we're looking for now. But we have a rock painting station in our booth to draw people in. And mostly it's kids, but even some adults. Can I paint a rock? And you could do stuff like that and it could be placed, even in a community rock garden. Yeah.
That's a great idea, Nancy. I was going to say, Marla, I already teach a kids art class and have taught at both elementary schools and would be more than happy to volunteer my time if this is something that we want to move forward with.
oh, that could be wonderful. I think that would be wonderful. So next steps, what would we do? Just wait to see from Umpqua and then come back? How do I proceed from here?
Yeah, I would think if you hear back from Umpqua, we do have a formal project request form that has the details on the project. And then that's a way of us formally, looking at it and approving it.
Okay.
And we could, we could make it, it's pretty simple. Jen can email
Sure.
you the
Okay.
form. Do you know how soon you're going to be hearing from them?
It sounded like it wasn't until August sometime.
Yeah.
So it would be wonderful to get it started for the start of this school year and look ahead into the school year to bring the kids on board.
We get you the project approval form and you can fill that out. And then once then it'll be all ready to go and you can submit it. And,
Okay.
we can get you on an agenda again.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, thanks for
Thank you, Marla.
Such a
You bet.
great
Nice
part
to
of this
meet you.
community. Evan, is there any citizens online? For citizen comments? Okay. Seeing no other citizen comments, we'll move forward on our next item, which is our budget process. And I know we're going to have a lot to talk about and kick around, but Laura, I just want to put you on the spot for a minute. I know that you've been leading the charge on getting sculpture projects up and running. And as we, go into our decision-making process, maybe you can give us just a little overview of how that's gone.
Well, as I think everyone in this room is aware, it's been a little challenging. The feedback has been minimal. We've put out the call twice now, and each time we've received one response. So I feel like it would be prudent for us to maybe put a pause on the sculpture ideas, especially the roundabout one, until maybe we've done a little more work on how to better form those relationships and how to better execute our calls. I know, Karen came and talked to us and had some great ideas. And I think we just need to maybe work on developing those personal relationships first and letting them see that we're serious about implementing these projects. And I don't know, I'm kind of at a loss. I think the feedback that I've gotten is that our budgets are adequate. So I think it's really a matter of forming those relationships and finding the right fit for those projects. I don't want to necessarily just force something through, I guess. I want to make sure that we're being thoughtful in the decisions and that it's the right artist for the right project. So,
Right. And as we go through this budget process, as Laura mentioned, we do have some challenges for spending our budget allotment for this year. So we may, especially the Mission Roundabout, I personally don't see how that project could move forward because we don't even have enough information on what size pieces can even go in roundabouts that we have to obtain some different feedback from Public Works and that sort of thing. So we could in fact pivot, and that was our Liberty Lake Together art. We
Correct.
could pivot that funding, which is $32,500, and look at making sure that we have some projects for this year. And we have found that murals are easier to get commissioned artists to do. So we've found that. And I know Jen's going to have a list, but we don't have a lot of city buildings because there's a lot of transition in what the city facilities are going to look like. But what we do have is we have a mural on the restroom at building and the concession building at Pavilion, but we also have buildings at Rocky Hill and at Orchard Park. We have a concrete basketball court at Rocky Hill that we have something done with. We have, and you want to tell them a little bit about the safety hazard and the rocks, boulders at
Yeah,
Orchard
so
Park?
if you look at the staff report, jumping ahead, I made a list of ideas from our staff. We got together and put a list of potential projects together. One of those came from Derek Kasanke. We have boulders in concrete at Orchard Park that are trip hazards. We have painted them once a couple years ago so that they're visible. But the paint is coming off and the rocks are pretty much the same color as the concrete. So they don't just jump out at you. So he came up with the idea of why not have the Selkirk kids come and paint those, or hire an artist to paint like characters like Ladybug and a frog and a bumblebee, because they're kind of half, you only see the top half of the rock in the concrete. It would make them highly visible so that they are not trip hazards anymore. So it's kind of a twofold process, but it also would turn them into art. So that's my suggestion for that, based on what Derek came up with. And then you can see the rest of the restroom. We have all the restroom facilities, including Town Square. You could do a farmer's market theme. Every park has a solid theme. So that would be very easy to say, we'll do it in the theme of farm at Rocky Hill, or do it in the theme of trains and orchards at Orchard Park. So there's definitely potential there to repaint and do murals, paint the murals on the sides of the buildings.
Now, if we look at the Liberty Lake Together art theme, which we would be pivoting the money from, I'm sure anything together any art is going to bring Liberty Lake together. So I don't think that would be an issue, and we could do the pivot, don't you?
Mhm.
Yeah. So Laura, I know you've dealt with the mural people more. Do you see any of these on the city staff report, like the boulders or the restrooms or anything like that, or the basketball court that I mentioned? Do you see any possibility of getting anything like that done this year?
That really comes down to artist availability. I certainly think that there's a possibility, and especially if we approach it the way, if we're looking to spend funds this year, I think it's possible dependent on availability. So like the Pavilion Park mural was done on boards within a studio and then later mounted to the building. So I can't picture, I guess, the surfaces off the top of my head, but I'm assuming they're similar to,
They're bumpy.
yeah, that they're similar to Pavilion, where I think that would probably be a good route to go again if we wanted a smooth.
So
mural.
we did discuss this earlier at our agenda review meeting, and they do paint on rough surfaces.
They absolutely can. It's more a matter of the look. Like if you want a smooth, polished mural look like Pavilion, then you could do it on boards. I'm just saying in terms of if we're looking to spend funding this year, that's a route that you could go, because they could complete the mural in studio this year and then mount it to the building in the spring of 26. Or we're in July, so I think that it might be challenging finding if we have to go through a whole call process and a selection process and then the time to do the mural as well. Unless we look
And we have
at
to go through council approval of a contract.
all of those things. So that the timing of that, I think, would make it challenging to get it complete on surface this year. But if you're looking at in studio work later mounted, I think there's potential to spend funds there. The other thing too is if we look at the body of work that has been submitted, and Jen, I don't know if this is possible, if you say, hey, we really liked artist A, B, and C and would like to move forward with a project from them, if we can do that, or if you have to go through a thorough call again.
They don't, art does not follow the same procurement policies and guidelines that purchasing a tangible item does. So
I knew that. I just didn't know if we need to have a specific call for each project or if we could.
I'd have to find out. I don't know the answer to that.
Because like for the basketball court mural, we liked what happened at Pavilion Park. I mean, could we just say, approach her and say, would you be willing to do Rocky Hill?
Mhm.
And if she had an interest, then we could just,
You could, or you could, I mean, on that project, we had several submissions. So we
Yeah.
can look at the other artists and say, hey, we really liked this art
Oh, yeah.
style.
that's true.
Could we use that artist and just directly commission them? Or do we have to go through this open call process of we're giving the art community an opportunity to submit?
Yeah, because we had a lot of submissions for that.
And we had a lot, I mean, thinking back, it's been, 6 years now, so you'd have to make that contact again, but we had some really good submissions for the Pavilion Park mural that didn't
Mhm.
get selected.
Right.
So those are artists, again, that you could say, hey, I really liked the idea, I liked the style, and can I commission that artist to do a farm themed one or a train themed, or however you want to do that? I just don't know from a city procurement standpoint or from a council approval what might be required for that. But we've had a lot of, I'd say, fantastic submissions over the years. So it's just a matter of pooling.
Mhm.
It'd be a matter of pooling those back together and saying, these are the artists that we'd like to try to work with.
So when you look at that $32,500 budget, do you have any idea based on knowledge and experience, what we might get done for that?
Without knowing the measurements of the building, I mean, you can very comfortably get 2 done. You might be able to get 3, but we spent, and again, 6 years ago, we spent 10,000 on Pavilion Park. So if measurement wise, it's in that same order of magnitude, then I'd say you're probably only going to get 2 to pay a competitive.
Rocky Hill would be smaller. But then again, I don't know.
Yeah, and you wouldn't be able to do those and a court.
So as we go through this budget process, I really like us to decide today, if we could, at least a general guideline of ideas that we would want to pivot to, so we can get that process started so that we accomplish something for our efforts this year that's measurable. So let's think about that as we start through on looking at the other items we have here. The ticket booth, that was nothing for this year, really. The story walk is on hold till fall. We haven't done anything with beautification. We've committed some of the programming budget, which we'll get to later. We did the Smarty board. We haven't had to spend anything so far on the community input for the, do we need any supplies for the barefoot booth? Do we need new rock painting stuff?
Mhm.
Because that could come out of that, because we're drawing people into the booth.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that we dip into that 5,000 to do whatever we need to do for the remainder of the outreach, which is at the farmer's market later this month and then at Barefoot. So what do you foresee as expenses for that?
I don't foresee any expenses because we've already got the boards and the boards from STJ. I don't know what we would spend money on.
Do we need the rock painting?
Yeah, that I
We'll
made
get
a
those.
note on.
Okay.
Yeah. let me
So we'll
pull this up.
get that out of that. Do we need we can just do a broad motion to spend what we need to on
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Where do the rocks come from?
We just go down to a local landscape company and get them.
But yeah, the rock painting pens, we could get fresh ones of those because I'm sure at some point they dry out a
Yeah.
little bit.
And,
Yeah.
and that was 2 or 3 years ago that we purchased those.
Yeah.
If we even still have them.
So, and then the community art. And I know we have an update farther down on the list, but I think we need to talk about that now. So the community art was the goat statue in Town Square, and the call went out. And Laura, what do you have for us on that?
So we did receive a submission, and there is the second to last page in your packet. A local artist and his wife, Peter Jagoda, had submitted a proposal of what he'd like to do, and he's they work with goats and have for the past 30 years through Rivers Wish Animal Sanctuary. So it's something that's very near and dear to him. I actually like that connection to the goats in particular that he has. And his vision is to have 2 goats and to also work with a recording engineer that as you approach or however, I guess we would work with him to determine it, that the goats would actually bleat when kids came up to it or people came up to look at the artwork. So I think we'd have to be a little thoughtful in how we do that, whether it's a button or some way to activate it so they're not constantly bleeding, but as may happen anyways, but he
You know,
did,
buttons.
yeah, so he does have experience working with fabricated steel, and from his portfolio, which I think we'll email out, I don't see the pictures in here, so he did send some portfolio examples. He's, I think, mainly done jewelry and some smaller art, but Nancy and I had talked about this, and she knows him and his wife, and they are both in the art community, and then also obviously within the animal sanctuary community as well, in particular with goats. So that is the one submission that we got. I think it's a really strong submission. I love his story. I love the connection. My only concern just on all of these as we move forward that, we only did receive one submission. And so I don't necessarily want to move forward with it unless the commission feels that it's the right submission.
What was he talking about, the columns?
The arch,
entryway thing?
arch. So you have 2 columns there. And so he was talking about having one goat standing on its hind legs, reaching for a branch on one of the entry columns, and at the base of the other, it'd be like looking behind, like it's peeking at the standing one. So it'd be, we'd ask for something playful. I believe based on what he's submitted, that if we were to move forward, that we'd be able to work with him, right? So we don't
Yes.
have a proposal for it. And at a minimum, we could say we set aside in the call a $15 stipend to develop a proposal. So we can say that, as a commission, let's spend that $1,500 and have him develop a proposal that would show the sketches, and you get a better idea of what he's thinking before deciding that, yes, we want to commission and move forward with the piece.
And I would say, I know the Jakotas from their work at Rivers Wish Animal Sanctuary, and I'm familiar with some of his sculpture work, and he has quite a resume, which you'll see we'll be able to send out. But
Everyone, Noel's online. I can't hear you guys. I will work on getting the video back up.
so we can keep going?
Yep.
Okay, I apologize everyone for the interruption. We're back at the Parks and Arts Commission, and we're discussing our budgeted projects for 2025. So Laura was bringing us up to speed on the submission, the sole submission for our community art piece, which is the goats at Town Square Park. And so we're discussing about options if we want to move forward. As I was mentioning, I believe the Jakotas love and lifetime commitment to animals, and particularly goats, and their background not only in art and sculpture, but her background in elementary art education, that they would be able to bringing kids into art. I don't know how to say it, but making the art attractive to children so we can get them interested in art. So Laura, you were saying about the stipend?
Yeah, so I think at this point, the best path forward would be to use the allocated stipend of $1,500. and just go back to Peter to see if he would be interested in further developing the proposal, and then we can kind of see what he has in mind. And then at that point, as a commission, vote whether or not we want to proceed forward, but at least getting a better idea of what it would look like.
So what's the pleasure of the commission with the community art piece? Do you want to move ahead and offer the stipend and see where that goes?
Yes.
Yes.
Need a motion?
I think so.
We will, yeah.
I move that we offer stipend to the, I don't know how to say the last name.
Jacoda.
Peter
Jacodas.
Dakota. I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to move ahead down the process with our sole submission, Pete and Kit Jacoda from Rivers Wish Animal Sanctuary, and offer them a $1,500 stipend to further develop the idea. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Please show the motion passes unanimously. So we took a little bit of a side trip from the budget, but we'll get back to the
I have a question on the budget. Where are didn't we decide to do some tree lighting?
we'll get to that.
Oh, I was just wondering, I didn't see on the budget. so-
Yeah, no,
Okay.
well, that's a pivot for this year a little bit
Oh.
because of the winter glow, but I believe we'll get to that.
Okay.
Real quick on that, so I'll reach out to Peter and offer the stipend to develop the proposal, but Jen, how do we move forward with that? He needs to be set up in the payroll or accounts payable?
Yeah, just have them reach out to me. and I'll get
Just
set
connect
up.
him with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, great. And so that's pretty much it for the spending, and we'll come back to the Liberty Lake Together art, I think, and make some decisions on that 2025 line item once we kind of go down into 2026. So on 2026, if everybody takes a look at their paper, we had some rock this was tentative, the rock art at Pavilion Park, and I don't know where we're going to be on the redo there. So that could be challenging. The ticket booth, I believe that's ready for the mural extension. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Smarty board, I don't know if that's going to be viable because we probably need to put that off if we want one in Pavilion Park for the following year, I would think. So do we want to just go ahead and move the Smarty board at Pavilion Park to 2027? Because I know we won't, what's the
I don't know
realistic
either.
schedule on when we might have a new playground in Pavilion?
I couldn't tell you that
Yeah.
right now.
Okay, we'll move it to 2027. And what do we want to do with the rock art? I know you had some feedback a long time ago on that. Is that something that would be separate from a playground or in conjunction with a playground?
Well, if we're still looking at pavilion, I think it would just be kind of part of that design process, not an afterthought. Like if that's something that we want there, that would be part of the layout planning. So that would kind of coordinate with that.
Yeah, and I don't know when those
Exactly.
decisions will be made or anything, so.
Yeah, and I don't know, I mean, is it feasible that the master plan for the park would be done next year and the rocks would, I don't know. I would defer to Jen and her group on that, but yeah,
And
but you
again, I
said you don't know, so.
I don't know.
Well, I think
I mean, if we don't have a plan or equipment,
for next year at
Order
Pavilion Park,
seems
I don't
unlikely.
think it's possible.
it seems unlikely.
And then we either have to put it off a year or if there's another location that if we had an interest.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of where else because the town square park is still being, right, the master plan isn't complete for that. So I wouldn't want to put anything there. The library is potentially moving because that would be another good location, but that's right. Unless you want to try for Orchard, but I don't want to force a project either.
Yeah. I mean, it might be interesting to wait on that till we see how the town square is going to be developed out. Because if that's all eventually connected and there's some kind of a library community building, which seems to be the direction they're going in,
No, that would be a nice
there
addition.
probably going to be some things. Why don't we move that to 2027? And we just take out the location and put something like possible town square.
Yeah.
Put town square in there for 2027. That might, we may end up moving it to 2028, but
Do we know the timeline for the master plan development, or is that,
They're working on it now. But
so
it's.
how long is that process normally? I'm not familiar with.
I don't think we know enough to even.
To even
know how
put
to
a
answer that.
timeline on
probably
it.
this year though.
For what? Town Square?
The master
Oh,
plan.
the town square.
No, the master plan.
This year, next. The
The
goal
park-
is this year.
The
but
park master plan? That will be
The
the,
park master plan is finished this year.
The town square part.
Oh, that.
plan.
The
I mean, if
town
you're talking about
square
town
is a
square, you,
separate project.
yeah, you want to know what that's going to look like before making that decision. And you.
But
at
they
this
don't even
point-
have it funded or anything.
and that's
yet.
probably gonna go to the
Okay.
voters, so I mean, it's.
TBD.
We could jump it all to 2028.
You can put 2028 and then if we need to
Yeah.
adjust it again, but
Let's change Pavilion Park Rock Art to Town Square and move it to 2028. And I see on 2026, we have the carryover, which I think is reasonable for the Kramer roundabout, because it's possible if we switch and pivot to a mural, the install might not be into that.
Yeah.
So we may have to change the verbiage on that to mural of some sort. And then are we gonna need to move wait a minute. The community art, are we gonna need to move that to a carryover to 2026?
yes, we'd already decided that.
Yeah, because I don't
We-
see it on there.
Yeah, no, we'd already talked about that when we resubmitted the call to artists.
So 2025, we need to carry over the community art to 2026. Figuring if we're going with the gold sculpture, it won't be done. Oh, shoot, scared me. Don't
Yeah,
push that button.
We'll probably have a good idea. I don't, like, after we talk to Peter and get a proposal, there would likely be some of that line item spent this year
Yeah.
for
So if it's a
materials.
carryover, we can spend some this year and
Yeah.
then spend the balance the
Yeah.
following year, just like we made a deposit on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, realistically, if we were to move forward, with Peter, then that's what would happen, I would assume.
So we're gonna have 3 carryover items for 2026 Story Walk, because if it goes into production in the fall, the install wouldn't be until spring. The Liberty Lake Together art, which would be likely 2 mural projects, and if they end up being on boards because of the time frame, then the install probably wouldn't be together until 2026, and then we'll add to that carryover the community art, the goat would be carried over to 2026. So we're gonna have 3 carryover projects that we're starting this year. Mhm. Yeah. So this community art,
Okay.
we need to add it here. So we're gonna have 3 carryovers, Liberty
Then
Lake.
what are we doing with this one?
Well, that's the new year.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have, this is the top little section here is carryover.
Oh, okay. And we want to put this.
Funded in 2025, but maybe not installed till
Got it.
2026.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So, then when we look down, so we've got now the rock art in Town Square is coming out of 2026 and going to 28. We will do the ticket booth next year, so that will stay in 2026. The Smarty board, we're gonna move that to 2027. The Pavilion Park Playground, we're just gonna leave that because that's not a budget item for us as a placeholder for the replacement project. We can keep our beautification and programming. At some point, as we get into it a little farther, Mikhail, maybe let us know if we need more money in programming. So we'll have a community art project.
I would propose that we strike that for next
there.
year because we're already going to have the carryover, and what we're learning is that these
Well-
really are kind of multi-year.
Well, I noticed we don't have any Liberty Lake Together art in 2026 other than the carryover. Do we want to keep either the Liberty Lake Together or the community art, or strike both and play catch up next year?
I think it'd probably be good to strike both and play catch up, but that's just my personal feel based on the feedback that we've received, that we spend next year kind of building those relationships and getting the ideas out there for the following year.
If,
Do we need to take a portion of the budget and apply it to some type of artist networking thing?
Like having a
Event or
consultant, I think-
website or?
Yeah, and I think having a consultant might not be a bad, because I know Karen said that's part of her job with Spokane Arts. If we might need to pay somebody to help us
right,
further these projects and make those networking outreaches and, building. those
like
relationships.
$5,000 or something like that, or?
Why don't we reach out to her? and find
Yeah,
out
I'd
what
get
it
a number.
costs?
My guess is that it's higher.
Do you
than
want
that.
to? Yeah, okay, so Jen will reach out.
That sounds beneficial.
So I hear what you're saying. I see in our 2026 piece of paper, we have community art. I don't see that we have a 2026 Liberty Lake Together art. I understand not wanting to do both of those. I would like, if people are agreeable, if we're going to do murals on a board to complete our Liberty Lake Together art for this year, since we're not doing the roundabout. So we pivot to that, and that's a carryover project. Why don't we keep community art in the budget and do the basketball mural at Rocky Hill Park?
As part of the community art. Do that.
And that way we would reduce the budget. Obviously, that wouldn't be 40,000, but that's something that I think we would feel confident about being able to
I
do.
think that's very doable.
And then that'll give us some breathing room to get the murals that we probably are going to start this year to get done, get all the sculpture stuff done, and then kind of reboot, if you will.
Yeah.
So that, I'll put that as a tentative, so the Rocky Hill people.
Do you want me to, or I don't know if Jen, if you already have copies of this, I'm pretty sure I do, but put together something that can be sent out to the commissioners of previous mural submissions and artists. So then we can look at those and say, or even, I think we worked with, I want to say for the Pavilion Park mural, we picked 5 to give a small stipend
I
to.
can send it out.
To develop. So, just recognizing that those went through a selection committee and process, and those were the 5 that rose to the top, those artists. If we don't want to go through the whole call,
But still
I'll
arrange
look
it for
again.
next year.
well, that would be that carryover where some of it might be able to get started this year. I mean, it just depends on the artists and their availability, but I can, right? Are we talking about the same thing?
Are we talking
think-
about the basketball court?
No,
or
I
the-
was talking just about.
Okay, so we'll
you
talk
talk
about the
like
basketball court next year, but you're talking about the murals on,
When you
say,
talk about that community, so you really have, we have the Liberty, like you had mentioned, the Liberty like Together carryover, which is now 2 murals instead of
Yeah.
a statue. So if we don't want to do another call, I think,
on
quite
that.
honestly, that might be hurting us a little bit, that we're putting out so many calls and not awarding.
So you're saying
checks.
we go back to people that have
That
submitted?
we go back to our base of artists that we've already
Right.
gotten submissions from, specifically for the murals, or because there was a good response for that. That we start there, and if there's artists that were like, and again, those 5 that submitted for Pavilion, I know we really wanted to work with all of them at the time because they were really amazing submissions, but we could only pick one.
So if we do that and we get the 2 murals in the Liberty Lake Together art, this year's project, we get 2 murals for our 32.5, we'll just divide that in
Essentially, yeah.
essentially in half, depending on the size. And the only buildings we have that we can identify in short notice would be the restrooms in Orchard and Rocky.
I'm very happy to hear what you guys are discussing for art for the city. I've always been a supporter of art, and whether it's the goats, or whatever, I think it's something that we're doing that adds value to the city.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
Is another potential the farmer's market container, is that city owned? And the only reason I'm asking,
Container there anymore.
oh,
We
well,
have a
shows how
storage
observant
shed.
I am.
We have some two storage sheds. Are
Yeah.
those permanent? No, they're portable.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so community art in 2026, we're penciling in the Rocky Hill basketball court. And it sounds like we're penciling in for 2025, the Liberty Lake Together art, the 2 bathrooms. And that'll probably be a carryover project because it'll be on the boards and the install will likely not be next year. And we won't do a new Liberty Lake Together art in 2026. We'll pause and catch up with ourselves. The Trailhead Beam project, I think we're back to putting that off till we get to the town square thing. So, and that's gonna be, let's just bump that so we don't have to keep looking at it to the 2028. Because we know we won't have that. Then we have the maintenance and then symphony fireworks and no winter glow. Okay, so then we've dropped down to 2027. What's the pavilion mural extension?
Ticket booth.
No, that one's turning the corner. So the ticket booth in 2026 is.
Oh, I see right here in the.
But we had
verbiage.
talked about wrapping the building.
Is that, do we put bathrooms there? I remember that was
There,
it.
we did, and we had said, no, we're not going to do the extension. And then Jen, you had sent me an email saying, never mind, we looked and could put the bathroom somewhere else if we wanted to continue that.
So do you want to save that in there for, as a placeholder for 2027?
If you're looking to, I mean, no, well, you could bump that to 2026 if you're looking to move something forward because you would do the same artist, right? So the same artist would do both that and the ticket booth. So it might work to just have him do the whole thing at once if we wanted. Otherwise, we can split it.
Well,
2
we're
years.
we're not going to
But-
be asking for much, so we might as well.
That's why I was saying if you were looking to have a more aggressive budget, that's one
Okay,
that
so
would
let's-
be
if we do-
realistically pulled forward.
If we do the ticket booth and then the wraparound in that same line item, because it'll be the same artist, and then that budget's 15, what should we bump it to?
Let me think about that. Or do we want to, since it is the same artist, do we want him to give us a quote for it? I can ask him for,
Yeah, if we had a ballpark quote so we could finalize the number.
I can ask him.
I mean, we could just, for right now, bump it to,
Why don't you just total?
I mean, just
right
put them
now?
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, total them together at 35,
35,000.
and then I can reach out to him and just say, this is where we had the budget.
yeah, we'll
This-
put 35 as a placeholder and then
That for 26 or 27?
that's 26.
You would be able to do that in 26,
Here
I
is the
believe.
Pavilion Park ticket booth.
Yeah.
Just put annual.
Yeah.
I'll ask him his availability, and see if 2026 is a viable timeline for him.
Okay. So if it is, I'm just gonna tentatively exit out of 2027, hoping that we can get it in 2026.
Yes.
And then we'll keep, just for a placeholder, the beautification programming. We can keep the community and Liberty Lake together, or I think we just cross that from 2027 and leave it. We don't need to,
Which one?
we just cross out the first item on 2027, the pavilion mural extension, because we moved it to
And
2026.
did we say we're removing the Trailhead Beam project in 26?
We're putting that to 28.
Okay, thank you.
So on 28, we'll scratch, we have multiple entries of the Pavilion Park mural extension, so we're scratching that for 28. We'll leave,
Oh, the 28, and this is another something that we can talk about. That artist, when he did the original mural, he had talked about you could do a bronze carousel statue. And you
Oh.
could mount it. So that's what's in the notes there,
Oh, I see.
interactive art. So you could do the carousel.
I see
bronze, yes.
carousel brown.
Yes. Oh, I love that idea.
What'd you say?
Oh, sorry. I just said yes. I love that idea.
Yeah, so the idea was that you could pick one of the carousel animals and do it in bronze, and then people could
Okay.
sit on the carousel
All right, let's,
animal in front of the mural. It'd be pictures, but
So are you leaving that in?
we'll leave that for
57?
2028, but in the
Yeah.
verbiage, cross out extend mural around corner and just leave carousel bronze
Okay.
as a
and my
placeholder.
guess, and I'll find out, but my guess is that budget would need to go up for the carousel bronze.
And why don't we cross it out of that first line in 2028 and under community art, put the carousel bronze and leave that 40 placeholder?
That sounds good.
Okay. So,
So are we removing pavilion mural extension for 28 altogether?
yes,
The
move
whole
that
thing?
whole line item.
Okay.
And then under 2028 community art in the notes, put carousel bronze.
I would like to propose, and I don't know if we need a note, but on the, and not to jump around, sorry, Nancy,
That's
on the
fine.
2026 public art maintenance, looking at the skate park and the basketball court, the Pavilion Park basketball court specifically. The artist that had done the courts in Riverfront Park, he had mentioned maintenance being an issue, and while I was down there for Hoop Fest last or 2 weekends ago, you can just see the state of disrepair that the mural's gotten into. So I'd like to make sure we stay on top of that, and same thing.
Is 5,000 enough or do we need to up it for
I'll
that?
ask Danielle, because I imagine we would go back to her to do the
Okay.
touch-ups, correct?
So in the notes, Jen, for 2026 public art maintenance, can you put Pavilion Park, skate park and basketball court in the notes? And then,
Oh, in maintenance? Okay.
yeah, just scribble there that that's gonna be maintenance. And then we'll have a question mark on the number. And
Yeah, we
which-
might need to increase that, but
You can ask her.
I'll reach out to both artists and just,
Okay.
what would it,
Yeah, what would that look like if we had them touch it up
Yeah.
next year? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 2026. And then, so I think 2028, we're pretty much, we don't need to talk about. We got rid of the Pavilion Park mural thing and the bronze in that year because we've got other stuff. And are you okay with waiting until 28 on the carousel bronze? Okay. Okay, so let's go back up to the top. See if we can hammer this out. So 2025, we have our carryover projects. Let's talk about the Pavilion Park Historical Outlook.
Yeah, so I have 3 companies that are providing design and fabrication proposals for the stand. We have the dimensions for the top plate that the Historical Society would donate, and I expect to have numbers in the next week. Preliminarily, I had one company respond last week with about a little over $5,000 in 4 weeks. So all 3 have said getting it done this year is not a problem. So
And we'll be within budget, it sounds like.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, well within
Uh,
budget.
All right, so that we're good there. Liberty Lake Together Art.
Still looking at a fall install. Their other project is complete, and this now has their full focus. If you look in your packet, there is the fused glass pieces that will be going into the
Third
piece.
from the end.
Third from the end. Those have not gone into the oven yet, so you can see some sketch lines and things on it, and it would be cleaned up and protected, but you can see the start of the glass pieces that will go within the metal panels.
And then someone's working with Public Works, whoever on the install and. looking
Well,
at
I
it.
need the details from the artist still.
Okay,
So I've asked for that as soon as they have it, because we need location, We need final heights and weights of the panels. And I mean, we have the details on how they want them mounted to the concrete base, but we need to determine what size that concrete base needs to be. And then that's all part of the permit too. So it's kind of on a holding pattern for that piece of it until we get that information.
Okay, so the Liberty Lake Together art is gonna be 2 murals, which will do the 2 bathrooms. And that is for our 2025 budget money. And so we have marked that we'll carry over the 2025 Liberty Lake Together art, understanding we may not have an installation until 26, but we'll get it started in 2025. So we're abandoning the Kramer Roundabout for now. The ticket booth, that's done. It's ready to go for
Yeah,
next year.
Quick question.
Okay.
Are these just art painted on the wall? Or is it something?
It's all fused glass.
Okay.
So it's
And it-
actual glass
and it's
pieces that will mount.
mounted in.
Yeah, mount within the metal panels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ticket booth, that's a done deal. We can't do the utility box wraps until the installation. Can we get that done this year?
You could do the utility boxes before the installation. It was more a matter of having it blend in with
Oh,
whatever
How
landscaping
are we
plan, so
how are we gonna do that?
the blending in,
Well,
Or-
how are we gonna pick the art for the utility box to go with the sculpture?
we just need to decide that. It doesn't have to go with the sculpture. We decided something that wouldn't take away from the
Okay.
sculpture. So if you have landscaping there, like something that is more,
So what do you think we should do for, we're talking about the utility box wraps at the Kramer Parkway Country Vista triangle piece of land where that fused glass metal sculpture is going to go. And the boxes are fairly large and prominent.
yes.
So I don't know how we should go about that, but we probably should get that going. Thoughts?
Who designs what you, like, could you do something that was like trees or plants that was kind of like natural?
I think
Like-
so.
Yeah, you can. And we have previously submitted artwork that would be along those lines. So that's again, we could go back to what we already have. We could put out another call. It would be a shorter, or if there's local artists that we know we like the artwork, or you've seen a specific piece that you like, you can ask them, because the ones on Harvard and the Indiana, those were taken from artwork, and the artist just granted us permission to use it for that. So it wasn't a call or a submission.
We almost need like a standard, like a brand guide of art, approved art that we can use.
Like a catalog.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like a brand, like marketing brand. Yeah.
Like a hometown heroes banners, being if for those stretch. Because of the banners that hang.
The banners. I'm afraid anything with writing might take away from the sculpture because they're so close.
The
together.
legacy one is further down. The legacy signal box.
What, are we talking about the Legacy one?
Mhm.
I thought we were talking about the Kramer Parkway one. Oh, and Legacy, we have 2 intersections. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, that's an interesting idea.
You could do the legacy one, to your point, with
The Legacy
The
one
Hometown
could be
Hero.
Hometown Heroes. How do you feel about that? I mean, the banners go right through there. What would that look like though? Because they have people's pictures on them. So.
I don't do something patriotic themed.
Something patriotic
Point,
themed.
Yeah. Not necessarily a hometown hero.
Right.
But patriotic.
And then the Kramer Parkway just needs to be something really simple.
I think just something natural would be
Yeah.
nice there.
like trees and
Yeah.
lakes. Okay. That sounds good to
I'd say
me.
like the sunflower one that we have,
Yeah.
that
I
one
love
blends in a lot
Where
more.
did we get that art?
It was submitted from from our original call to artists for the utility boxes. So I can go, I mean, I can go look through that artwork again and see, we kind of have I mean, not really a thorough catalog, but we have some that have already been
Well, if you
submitted.
have that and can look, and then something patriotic should be available somewhere, I would
Have the
imagine.
students, have this,
Yeah, we
the
have
student
that.
design something this fall.
Don't we already have patriotic art from the student?
I don't remember.
I remember seeing in one of these meetings some artwork from the students.
Can you have to do that in warm weather?
Mhm.
I mean, you can realistically do that one through fall.
Yeah. Because school's out now. If we wanted to have students submit patriotic art, we'd have to get it right after the school year started. But we could do that. Why don't you go through and look and see what you have? Maybe we can find something that's natural for the Kramer Parkway one and then go to the school for fall. Because if they could, I think that it's a fairly quick turnaround to have the wrap made once we make the selection. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do some installation around Veterans Day.
If it's not too cold. I want to think about cold weather right now. All right, well, if you can look through that and then
Yes.
maybe we'll put the legacy one on hold, but that's a good idea now that I realize you're talking about.
And
that.
a reminder that STCU most likely would sponsor those.
Okay.
So reach out to STCU.
The story walk, we know that's possibly fabrication could start in the fall. The beautification, we're gonna take some painting supplies out of, we'll still have more money for that, but we can talk about that at the next meeting. The programming, we've already committed some money and we need to talk about that again. Completed on the Smarty board, the playground. Oh, not beautification, we were taking the painting stuff out of the pavilion playground thing. My mistake. I don't know I don't think we've done anything with beautification, but
Would the orchard rocks come out of that?
oh, that's a good idea. Could we get the orchard rocks done for that? How many rocks did they say there were?
I don't know. There's a lot of them. It could be an ongoing project if you
We
wanted
could
to do
spend
it all.
5,000 and get as many done as we can.
Yeah, I personally like the idea of having an artist do it and doing animals versus having students come paint them a solid color. I like the idea of trying to just incorporate it into the park in a playful way. So then it's still a safety, serves the safety purpose, but
Mhm.
also
Could we go back to a list of contributors and try to find someone, or do we need to do a call for that?
I wouldn't think so. Who did, Jen, you might have the artist that did, I think it was one of the first Barefoots that did the chalk art.
I thought that was Danielle. No,
I didn't think so.
I can go back and look and
I
find
think
out.
I feel like it was Stacy maybe.
All right, well, why don't
Stacy Boyer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And
That's
she's submitted for projects over the years and she's always been in the top when we would come down to the final decision. So she would be a really good person to ask, I think. And I know she's done a lot at Summit School specifically. So they have some really, really nice murals there that she's done.
Well, why don't we find out how far our 5,000 would go and get that started? So we get that done this year and then we can have it continued into next year.
So is that gonna come out of beautification?
Yes. And then playground, the community art, that's gonna be the carryover goat project. So 2026, we have the Liberty Lake, we have 3 carryover projects. Liberty Lake Together Art, which would be the 2 bathroom murals. We have Story Walk and we have the community art in the form of the goat statue as it stands now. We've moved the rock art to be in Town Square, and we put that in 2028. The Pavilion Park ticket booth is now combined with the wrap of the mural around the bathroom concession building, and that budget number is now tentatively at 35K, but Laura's going to have a conversation to see if that's accurate. The Smarty board in 2026 is now 2027 because Pavilion Park won't be ready. We'll still be working on the playground project. We've upped the beautification budget for 2026, and if, depending on what the art on the rocks in Orchard Park, we could add to that so we can finish that project in the spring, hopefully, if the 5,000 doesn't go very far. Programming,
So are you saying 15,000 for beautification, or did you say no?
well, over 2 years.
Oh.
Because we're stuck with the 5 this year. I don't know how far it's gonna go with painting those boulders in the playground area, but if it doesn't do every boulder, we could finish it in beautification in 2026. And we could even up that number if we needed to. Or we could make it a separate project if we needed to. But we'll just kind of leave it as it is, the programming 10. The community art now is tentatively the basketball court at Rocky Hill. We have that at 40. It shouldn't be that because it's just a single court. I don't know what a realistic number would be. In your conversations, would you be able to see
Yeah, I
what
can
a
fill
single
that out.
court number might be?
I can ask.
So we can true that up a little bit. The Trailhead Beam project is now bumped to 2028 because we don't, we're still thinking in a building, so that's Town Square. The public art maintenance, you're gonna check on that, Laura, to see if the 5,000 would cover the update to the skate and the basketball mural. And then we have no numbers, for the symphony and fireworks. Would those be the, and we don't have, I don't know what, we don't have those numbers.
We should have the symphony if we're contracted out through those.
Yeah, I see last year it said 21 and 13. Are those numbers or?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter too much because it doesn't come out of the public.
It's just that we support.
We supported. So we had, yeah, because the fireworks number doubled. And then we should have the contracted amount for the symphony for next year.
Yeah, so we can write that in the
Mhm.
notes when we know that, what that is. Then in 2027, we've scratched the mural extension because we moved that up. Everything else is the same for now. And we can finish looking at that next meeting. And then in 2028, we scratched the pavilion mural extension because again, we've moved it. But except for the carousel bronze, which we've now put in the community art 2028 category. So I think if we get a new printout for our next meeting with all that, we can, because we need to finalize it at our next meeting.
We also need to look at the proposed fee schedule as well.
At the proposed fee schedule.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we? on the
I don't know that
agenda?
we need to do that today. We could probably go through that since we're kind of
Yeah, we're
kind of running a long meeting.
Right.
But it is in here for you all, so if you could review it and be prepared for discussion at the next meeting, we could get it finalized.
Okay, so next meeting, we'll do the fee schedule.
Yep.
And everyone will review that number in their packet so we can get through it quickly. So we don't need a vote on the budget thing because we'll just finish that up at the next one. But the fitness classes, we need a vote on that. Is that you, Mikhail? Sorry, this is taking so long, but we need a,
You're doing great. We did get half.
pardon me?
You're doing great.
I'll be quick. So I was reached out to by Stephanie. Oh, I can't remember her last name off the top of my head. She's a local doctor and she does some wellness fitness classes in a location in Liberty Lake. And she just moved her fitness classes over to my Safeway. And she reached out and to see if we were interested in partnering up and potentially doing some beginner intro fitness classes at her location there and then potentially some in the park. And so I have the program proposal form here. It's a very basic introduction classes, yoga, yoga for chronic pain, Pilates, HIIT classes, step, jump. So it'd be a wide variety and potentially some cooking classes for cooking for healthier food type classes. So I just wanted to gauge your guys' opinion and see if you guys are fine with me moving forward and potentially working out an agreement with her at this point. It's like I said, it's just very basic classes that we could potentially do. We don't have anything set in stone, but we could, once we have an agreement, we can then start putting classes at certain dates.
And the expense to the city is basically your time, and would there be a registration process through
Correct.
here or?
Correct. We would do a registration through us, through our new software, and it would be an 80-20 split with like we do most of our programs. And then her and I would then come up with which programs we do, which seasons, probably more stuff indoors with her in the wintertime, and then hopefully some summer outdoor stuff in the parks.
So the cost of the community member would be nothing?
No, there would be a cost for her instructor's times. So I think we had it at about $15 to $20 a class for like a class period.
Is there any conflict with the existing Satori dance class or the yoga in the park?
So Satori doesn't exist anymore. They vanished.
Okay.
And the yoga, they didn't want to continue. They weren't getting the turnout that they were hoping for.
Okay.
And you said this will be a mix of in studio and in park.
Correct.
Seems like a benefit.
So yeah, I'm just looking for if that's something the commission was interested in doing, then I can move forward with potentially putting an agreement together and going from there.
I mean, it sounds like it's replacing
Mhm.
programming that we'd already approved. Is
Yeah.
that fair? Okay.
So do you need a motion to move forward with?
Yeah, just to get to the commission's feedback and approval.
I'll move that we move forward in discussions with Inclusive Fit for fitness and wellness programming.
Second.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
Oh, well, I
Oh,
guess I should vote on it. Hello.
I will
Um,
tell you that I will look forward to participating in.
Perfect.
All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Hi. Yeah, I think they're great. I work with Inclusa on several different projects, and Stephanie's amazing. Plus,
Nice.
who doesn't likes to exercise outside? If you have to do it, might as well be outside.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
All right. Motion passes unanimously. All right. Now I'll look ahead at the agenda. Park plan update. SCJ, are you still out there?
We need to do the never forget.
Never forget garden. Yeah, do we still have those people online? The SCJ? Yeah. But we didn't do the never forget garden. Oh, I
We need to
didn't,
vote on
oh,
it.
I didn't have it on. I'm not working off my old agenda.
Oh.
Okay, hang on one second. We have a vote on the Never Forget Garden electrical box. Okay, so remember, just to refresh, we redid the electrical. It's a small box. It's at the garden. We thought there was a rose. There wasn't a rose. There was an orchid. David found some art for the orchid, which doesn't look like anything would grow here to me. And then we found an old submission. Laura was able to dig it up. And if you look at, where is it in the packet? It's,
After the fee structure.
It's right before all the survey stuff.
no, it's right before all the survey stuff. There's a picture of the
Soldier at the
soldier.
tomb of the unknown soldier.
I don't know why I can't find it, but so right now it looks like we have, she has the picture up there. That's kind of what the Never Forget Garden to me is more about. I don't really think of an orchid, but maybe there is an orchid. What do you guys want to do on the box? Right now, our choices are the soldier at the tomb of the unknown at the unknown soldier, or the orchid that's not the rose that we thought was going to be planted.
My preference would be the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And I apologize for dragging this out. I think I'm the one that brought up the rose because I remembered in the presentation they had talked about a specific variety of rose. And
Yeah.
I agree with Nancy that I just feel like an orchid would look out of place in the park in that garden area because it's not something that would naturally grow. Whereas when we had explored the idea of the rose, that is something that would grow. And then we thought it would be another kind of nod to the DAR organization that put in the plaque, because again, we thought that there was a specific rose variety that they had talked about, not an orchid. So I would lean towards the patriotic personally, but
What's
I like that.
patriotic? What do you think, Bob?
Well, I'm agreeing with everything that's being said here. I think it's a way of moving forward. And it adds value to the city for people, wandering through the parks and seeing those things that we're talking about. I think it's good.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I move that we, is that right? Where am I? I move that we proceed with the patriotic art.
I'll second.
Yes.
All right, it's been moved by Joni, seconded by Noel to move ahead with the DAR image of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier for the Never Forget Garden. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Please show the motion has passed unanimously, and that's what we'll do. We can check that off our list. All right, now we'll go to the Parks Plan update. I apologize, SCJ, you're on.
No problem at all. I've actually really enjoyed listening to the meeting. I'm learning a lot that's very relevant to doing the parks and arts and recreation plans. So it's been a good use of time. But with that, Jen, I don't know if you have my PowerPoint that you can pull up or do you want me to share my screen?
Evan's pulling it up right now.
Okay, because I'm happy to do either one.
Now, aren't you glad I told you 10 minutes?
Yes. Yeah, so I'll just kind of keep this high level and quick because I know you guys have had a lot to cover. But I haven't touched base with you all in a while. So I want to just let you know where we're at with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan update. So I'm Jen Dial, by the way. I'm the project manager on this. So nice to see you all again, commissioners. Thanks for having me. Here's a quick reminder of what was in the scope of work and the various phases and kind of where we're at with each of them. We're basically through that first phase, which was really getting familiar with all the relevant documents, policies, procedures, and putting together a community kind of profile and demographic assessment. So we're just very familiar with all the needs and issues in Liberty Lake. The second step was building the inventory and assessment, which included doing site visits and just getting more familiar with each park and the amenities and facilities within them. So that's pretty much wrapping up right now. The engagement, as you can imagine, because it's July, we're in the thick of that. So that's going to be ongoing throughout the summer. The level of service review that's part of that phase 4 demands and needs analysis. We're doing that right now, conducting that review right now. And we're starting to do the policy framework to really review all the existing goals and objectives to provide some recommendations for you all. So you can go to the next slide. Quick recap of what engagement has looked like so far. I know a lot of you have come to some of the events, so thank you for being there. We had our kickoff at the Trailhead Golf Course Event Center on May 22nd. Then we did a pop-up event at Pavilion Park, trying to get some general information from the public, but also some of that specific feedback about Pavilion's playground and things that I know is on your priority list for park improvements. So we had a whole busload of kids from YMCA camp show up, and we got a bunch of feedback at that pop-up, which was great because that Friday was a very cold and windy day, if you all remember. So we were really pleased with that. And then staff just hosted on the 4th of July a pop-up event at Pavilion Park as well. And so we're getting a lot of great data and input. So pretty excited about that. This engagement schedule has 4 more events lined out throughout July and August. So we're going to continue to refine the questions, and the surveys going great. I think we have almost 200 responses on the survey so far. So feeling pretty good about that. And I'm happy to come back as we get more engagement results and share with all of you what we're hearing. Next slide. That community context report is complete, and it'll serve as kind of the introduction for the report. And it has just a description of the community history, some updated demographic data, and some geographic and economic context. So you can all anticipate seeing that as part of the draft report. Next slide. In addition to just doing site visits to all of the parks to look at facilities and amenities, we did the same for public art. And this screenshot here just captures some of the art installations that we visited, their coordinates, because we're going to be doing an inventory map of where all the art currently is located within your system. We categorized them by type, and then we looked at their condition, any maintenance or appearance needs. We identified who the artist was and if they were local, and then we tried to identify some price points on there. And then we're also looking closely to see if the various art types are aligning with some of the goals and policies listed in your Arts Commission strategic plan. So we'll have some maps to show you soon in terms of the inventory, and we can start having conversations with you all on recommendations for where you'd like to see different types of art and an expansion of art. So I know that was a lot of tonight's meeting too, so I gained a lot of valuable insight listening to you all. Next slide. One of the other things we're doing is pulling together what we call a policy framework, and it's essentially a matrix that pulls in all the current policies, both from the arts strategic plan, the city's comprehensive plan, the most current Parks and Rec master plan, and identifies those things that are still relevant, those things that have been completed, things that still need to be done. And so we'll probably be sending this not only to Jen and staff, but to you all as well, to help us identify those goals and policies that are outdated and those that need improvement. And then we'll refine that and start developing a list of recommendations for you all. Next slide. We've been doing a lot of mapping. So this example here on the slide is Orchard Park. So we'll have kind of an overview map that identifies with a legend all the various amenities within each park. And then in addition to that, we'll have that condition assessment sheet below each park map. So essentially the report will have like a profile for each park that has its inventory, has its condition assessment, has its kind of timeline for system improvements and things like that for all of the city-owned parks. And then we'll also be doing an inventory of more like regional system-wide park and rec amenities, including things like the HOA parks and things that aren't necessarily city-owned. So we'll be doing both of those in the inventory and assessment phase of the report. Next slide. This is an example of what the amenity condition rating sheet looks like. So in addition to doing site visits, we've asked staff to kind of ground truth this, but we've got a list of all the amenities that are in each park, the quantity of those amenities, and then a rating ranging from new, good, fair to poor, when it was last updated, what the replacement schedule is likely to be, and then just various notes where we can start to identify any other kind of nuances that are relevant to making some assessment decisions. Next slide. And then this is just kind of next steps, looking at the phases. We're really focused on continuing that public engagement and making sure We're getting input from a variety of the community, completing that level of service review. We're looking at 10 other peer communities similar to Liberty Lake to determine what other cities have for their level of service in terms of park acreage per resident and types of amenities. And then we'll be comparing that with some of the National Recreation and Parks Association's recommendations. And then we'll be continuing that policy framework, focusing on the goals and objectives and making some recommendations. So hope to come back to all of you to have more of a discussion when we get to the point of sharing the level of service analysis. I think you'll find that pretty interesting to see how Liberty Lake compares with some other communities. And then, of course, getting your input on the goals and objectives. So I could go so much more in depth, but I wanted to keep it high level and not keep you here all night. So that's the conclusion of my presentation for now, but I'm happy to answer any questions you all might have.
I just had one question on the engagement kickoff summary that we have in our packet. On page 4 of that, station number 3 at that kickoff was public art. And I realize we have very few responses, but you know, the natured inspired art got 10 votes, murals got 6, and so on. Are you gathering more of the data in that category, or is that it just from the kickoff?
Yeah, the summary currently is only showing you what we received from that kickoff event, but the survey has art-specific questions in it as well. So we'll be getting a lot more data from that. And then the other pop-up events, the 2 we had at Pavilion Park were pretty focused on the Pavilion Playground. But when we do more general pop-up events throughout the rest of July and August, we'll make sure that we have an art question in there so we can supplement those results.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful as we make our plans forward over the years and create a budget to know what people are really looking at. And that engagement one was just too small of a sampling to really know.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, any other questions? Well, thanks for sitting with us while we go over and over stuff, but it's a process. We appreciate you coming and giving us the update. Thank you.
Absolutely happy to be here. Thanks, everyone.
All right, moving on very quickly to our other agenda items. You'll see on the farmer's market table, we still have I said I would take the, it's on the 26th. I'll do the 9 to 11, but we have the 11 to 1. This is at the farmer's market at the city booth. Jen, you're going to be there?
Yep.
Is there anybody that would be able to join Jen from 11 to 1 on July 26th?
I will.
You will?
Yeah, July 26th,
From 11 to 1 at the city booth at the farmer's market.
city booth. Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Really appreciate that. Then the other one was the barefoot table shifts, which you'll see in your packet. We have 4 different shifts, and we have people in shift number 1, but nobody in any other shift. Does anybody have any availability? That's for the rock painting, and then letting the kids put, and kids and families put dots on the playground replacement project to see what they're looking at, like you saw in the packet that they did at the pop-ups.
I'm out of town that weekend and not available, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Well, I'm thinking that if I can move to the, Gary and I should split up. That'll cover an extra shift. So why don't you move me down to the 11:45 to 1:30 slot. And then maybe we can put out an email to all the commissioners.
Yes.
Asking to fill the remaining slots. Jen, thanks. All right. Winter event idea update. We really need to get a quick through this, but we need to hear it. Okay.
Yeah, so at the last meeting, I discussed potentially, us purchasing some trees and then having community members decorate it and then have them plant it. With more discussion from our arborist, he's just concerned about the lifespan of the trees, doing it in winter and then them not surviving the winter after getting planted. And the reason we brought that idea up was it fills two different purposes, some decorating for the holidays and then also adding more trees to the park. So Jen and I were talking, and another option that we could potentially do the same thing with trees is actually purchase live Christmas trees, have them in the park, and then those can be decorated. And then those can also still be used after the fact because with the goats in the wintertime, will after the holidays can eat the trees. And so it's a little more roughage for them that they need as well. So it is kind of an update that we had to pivot a little bit based off our arborist's opinion on the trees.
And would it be accurate that we're basically this is a stopgap, because we won't have winter glow and gives us something in the city and
Yes,
gives
it-
us time to plan more because we have no planning time now.
Correct.
Can we plant evergreen trees in the fall to be decorated later in the winter?
That's something I can discuss with the arborist, absolutely.
We have and
Okay.
determined that that's going to be too hard to try to pull power to.
That's right.
Because we can't just cluster them in one area where we have power.
Oh.
It doesn't work that
And see,
way.
with the root balls, they could put them anywhere.
You put them at the power then.
Yeah.
Are we looking at doing any additional holiday decorating throughout the city?
Yeah, staff, we've been discussing it and coming up with some options that we'll be presenting hopefully next couple weeks.
Because we could take the money because didn't we donate to Winter Glow
Mm-mm.
in addition to this?
I think we just
No.
supported it, right?
Oh, I thought we donated to it.
We supported the city's donation to Winter Glow, but that can't be pivoted because it isn't it the hotel motel tax?
No, it can be pivoted
It can
to
be.
12,000, but the hotel motel tax or the lodging tax advisory committee, Kyle, that's a $20,000 expenditure, and Kyle is going to address them to see if they would approve of spending the money towards our own winter event. So he seems to think that they can, but
But we don't know yet.
we don't know yet. So right now, what we know is we have $12,000 to put towards this winter event.
And
So-
then we did vote 8,000 towards the root ball trees, which is now potentially pivoting to disposable trees, whatever stand that staff comes up with, and potentially the city
Lights.
doing the lights
Some
and
lights.
the families just doing the ornament.
Mhm.
So I think you're just looking to update us and
correct.
that we're still okay with the $8,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
think so. Thank you. All right, Katie, bike safety.
Okay. We did just meet and because of I'm having to be gone for a little bit out, I'm having a shoulder surgery. We've moved the bike safety event to a park ride at the end of September, Sunday, September 28th, where we will be doing kind of a family ride to all the parks in Liberty Lake. And then they will stop by Pavilion Park and be able to go through a small course on bike safety. So that's kind of incorporating that into a family biking event, which could be fun. And so we talked also about let's see, let me just double check on my notes there. So the other thing we talked about that was brought forward is, and you've probably seen in other meetings, is the issues with e-bikes. And so Ben Turner, who was at our meeting, suggested it'd be maybe good to have some kind of workshop or town hall that would be open to the community to talk about safety with golf carts, with e-bikes, regular bicycles, pedestrian safety, kind of a big safety meeting and review the state laws because there are Washington state laws that have to do with e-bikes. And I think because of all of a sudden a surge in all everything and young children using them that don't know the rules of the road, there's been a lot of scare for a lot of adults that come around the corner and then there's an e-scooter in the middle of the street, right? So if we could have something like that, I think there's a big community need for that and the concerns around all the parks in Liberty Lake. Have some guidelines, have the police there and other bike safety advocates like me that would go over the rules of the road. Someone would cover golf cart laws and all those kind of things. I just think there needs to be a new refresh on safety in our community and on the streets, in our parks. You can post things, but if we could do something, we got more community involvement. The National Bike Alliance has this little booklet. And it talks about e-bikes, all different kinds of bicycling, sharing the road. We could offer these. We were going to offer these anyway at our bike ride. So I think there's a lot we could do, and there's a little bit of a confusion over these little mini dirt bikes, where they're e-bikes or dirt bike. You know what I mean? They think they're motorcycles. Yeah, so there's confusion in the community just about what is legal, what's not.
Yeah.
How you classify these different things that are
That is a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I think the trick is going to be how to get people to attend. Or how to get the information out to people that won't attend. I mean,
I think
is the most.
Yeah, I think if you have a lot of different presenters, maybe, like the police, maybe even firemen, other bicycle advocates in our community.
Maybe we serve cake or cookies too. Food brings people.
Yeah.
Maybe we give away a free bike.
We could do that.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. So I think, it would be great if we could figure out when we could do that. Even if we, did it, the first part of September or something, like when kids are getting back to school, or, and then do we want to develop kind of in our parks, some general guidelines? A lot of people don't read signs, but at least if they're there, maybe
a good idea.
some people might read them.
No,
Or we could get creative with the signs, maybe do some illustrations or something.
I mean, I think I personally would rely on your safety group to plan it and advise it, and would have my full support. I think it's a fantastic idea, because safety is, in recreation and using our parks and trails and sidewalks and streets is super important.
We could have, maybe one of the nurses or doctors present some of the information on crash data, how many people get injured and like that, I mean, there's a lot of basic facts people don't even know,
A bike helmet saved my son's life when he crashed in 8th grade, split the helmet right there, and he still got a bad concussion, but it was life-saving, so.
You have the helmet still?
Well, I think that putting together a program like that benefits everybody in the community, whether they, whether they come to the meeting or not, okay. They'll see a safer city for bicyclists and carts and things like that.
It'd be nice to have it videotaped, maybe put on our city website, the presentations.
Yeah, that would be good.
So maybe they didn't get to it, or, you could refer to that later if we got the accurate information on one of our websites.
Well, I think we'd all look forward to bringing back the plan and how we can help.
Okay, so I think, do we have to set a date with the city though to do a town hall?
Yes.
So should we?
How's the because the restaurant is gonna control the,
Mhm.
they already are controlling it. Can city use it for free? So we just have to coordinate what dates would be available? So could you help Katie with that?
Is it more like a bike safety?
I'd hesitate to call it a town hall.
Yeah.
Find something a little more
Well, I was
exciting.
just thinking of,
Yeah.
you know, something where the community is invited to.
Right.
Yeah.
I get the idea of it. It was just we've had so many lately and
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
always successful.
Yeah,
Yeah, just the label. I think the idea of food is always good. It'd be nice maybe if the Splash could, coordinate with the Splash and have it be a feature article. So then
Mhm.
it's like, I know a lot of people probably just skim through the Splash, but if it's the front page, then it's something that you might draw some people in and.
yeah.
Maybe do it in conjunction with your bike park ride and end it at the pavilion and then you're not trying to plan multiple events.
That's a good idea.
I think we've learned too through the parks plan process that it's better for us to go to where the people are already than try to hold a town hall and ask them to come see us at
Mhm.
an event.
Good point. Okay. So do you think like in the next month should figure out when the best time to do something like
Are
that
you
is?
thinking about after school starts sometime or? I mean, summer it's
Yeah.
out because,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, these issues are gonna just continue.
yeah.
So.
If we could do something in September or October and figure out a catchy name, get food and figure out the best place to have it.
Why don't you team up with John Bujosa and do it at the Cops Cruisers event at Meadowood Tech? That's a huge car show with PD,
Yeah.
military.
Is that in September? I can't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah,
Oh, that's a good
Do
idea.
you want me to send you his info?
yeah. I know I've
Because
heard
we're
of.
talking about
Then you've
real
got-
things at a
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah, and the bike aspect would be a really good fit there. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, and there's plenty of air space for that kind of thing
Yeah.
too.
mhm.
That's a great idea, Jen.
Okay,
Great idea.
I'll send you his
Okay,
contact.
And I can help you.
okay.
Done a lot of
All right, well,
event things.
yeah, let's go down that. We need catchy names.
Yeah.
and-
I don't know the rules on e-bikes, but I will learn them.
Here you go.
So everything you need to know, but was afraid to ask.
I will educate you all next meeting.
And for the record, please note that Gary Edwards has joined us. Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Yeah.
How come? Am I late?
Yeah, it started at 4.
Oh, gee, I thought it started at 6, sorry.
Oops. That's okay. We're glad to see you.
So anyway, that's about it.
All right.
For this.
So the next items, the historical outlook, the Liberty Lake Together update, and the call for qualifications we've covered. So let's really quick do the staff.
High level, yeah. So pretty much everything on the staff report we've already discussed, and the events you already know about. We do need to consider in one of our conversations here in the near future, what the involvement should be from Parks and Arts Commission on the city birthday event planning thing, whatever that is gonna be and whatever it's gonna look like, because we need to start planning it probably this fall,
When is the birthday?
Next year.
next August.
Is
Next
it our
August.
100th?
What's that?
Is it our 100th?
25.
Oh.
Here, obviously.
Time doesn't go by that fast.
And then Mikkel's working on a rec tennis potential program. And then who could do the July 15th council report? Did you want to?
Anybody want to do it? And I cannot do it.
Here.
I can't do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will check my schedule. That date is standing out to me for some reason, so I'll double check, but I can for sure put slides together if you need me to.
Yeah, I won't be here, so, why don't you check your date and see if it's possible? And if not, we can pivot, maybe one of our not here council people could do it.
I possibly could do it if you put the slideshow together.
Okay.
And if Mikal or Derek don't have anything else,
Oh, I have one question. Could we, for the bathroom mural project, get someone to give Laura the dimensions of the two bathroom buildings and a photo of all four sides?
yeah, which bathroom is it?
Rocky
Rocky
and Orchard.
Thank you. I had that on my list to do.
Yeah, if they, and to get that to Laura as soon as it's reasonable for them to do it, so she can start getting answers to some of those questions. Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for August 4th. And is there anything else? If not, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for bearing with the long meeting. It's the budget. Should go a little smoother next time, so thank you.